Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will present about legal protection for safeguarding halal consumer. Before we start, let's get to know the presenter today.
My name is Nur Amirah binti Azman.
My name is Nurlalati Shahila binti Muhammad Hussein.
I am Khalida Afikah binti M. Nawawi.
For content, we have introduction, literature review, 3 objectives. First is to study the right of obligation halal consumer. Second is to examine regulation under offense on the right related halal. Third is to analysis the issue related consumer protection. And the last is conclusion. Introduction. Definition of halal. Under Malaysian law, paragraph 3 of the Trade Description Order, Halal Definition 2011 has defined halal as, first is, it is not and does not consist of or contain any part or thing of an animal that is prohibited by Islamic law for Muslims to eat it or that not slaughtered according to Islamic law. Second is, does not contain anything that is unclean according to the law Shara'. Third is, not intoxicating according to Islamic law. Fourth is, does not contain any human limbs or the result of which is not permitted by Islamic law. Fifth is, not toxic or harmful to health. And lastly is, not prepared, processed, or manufactured using anything equipment contaminated with feces according to Islamic law. Next is consumerism. Muhammad Azam and Muhammad Adil explain in their article, human rights mean the rights which are based on respect for the dignity and worth of all human beings and seek to ensure freedom from fear and want. Abdul Raufah Ambalia explained that the terms consumerism in Islam refer to a person who obtains such goods or services to meet their needs while achieving legitimate purposes in accordance with the Islamic law. Next slide is legal protection in Malaysia. To discuss aspects of the scope of law in Malaysia can be formulated in general. The provisions of halal-related laws are contained within. First is Food Act 1983. Second is Trade Description Act TDA 2011. Third is Trade Description Act Definition of Halal Order 2011. Fourth is Trade Descriptions, Certification and Marking of Halal Order 2011. Fifth is Consumer Protection Act 1999. Next is Penal Code, and lastly is Sharia Criminal Offence Federal Territories Act 1997 and State of Sharia Criminal Offence Enactment.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khalida Afikah binti Muhammad Nawawi, and today I'm going to present on the literature review with my friend. Let's move on to the next slide. Next, for the first literature review, in order for, in bracket 1, Trade Description, Halal Certification and Marking Order 2011 stated that all food and goods should not be described as halal or otherwise described to show that the food or goods may be eaten or used by Muslims unless first certified as halal by the competent authority such as JAKIM and so on, and also marked with the logo as specified in the first schedule. These two was the criteria that should be followed in the Trade Description, Halal Certification and Marking Order 2011. For the second literature review, according to an article, Will the Real Halal Logo Please Stand Up? Review by Halim Muhammad, Saleh Yalawi, Omar Ahmad and Qasim, 2014, stated that halal has become universal. There are irresponsible food operators using unauthorities halal logo to market their products. Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperative and Consumerism reported that they were seek fake halal logo that resembling the
genuine logo issued by Jackie in the market. The imitation created confusion among the consumer and sadly, they believe that the fake logo is the real one. Okay, based on this article, we know that many issues have occurred related with a fake halal logo that make confusion. So for this issue, we will explain more by Afika in the next slide. Okay, next is for the first objective to study the right of obligation halal consumer right in Malaysian law. There are four, which is firstly the right to satisfaction of basic need. To survive this life, human beings need necessities such as clothing, food, shelter, healthcare, education, and so on. Second, the right to healthy environment. Human life and work in an environment which is non-threatening to the well-being of present and future generations. Third, the right to redress. It means the right to a settlement of claim involving the right to receive compensation for poor quality goods or services. The consumer have the right to make damage claim based on the implied terms between the sellers and buyers. And lastly, the right to consumer education. The right to accurate knowledge and skill needed to make informed, confident choice about goods and services while being aware of basic consumer right. For example, consumer need to know what the true logo of halal. Next is consumers' right in Islamic law. There are four. Firstly, right to get the pure and quality food, halalan thayyiban. Based on Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 168, Allah stated that meanings, O people, eat of lawful and good on the earth and do not follow footsteps of shaitan. For surely he is an open enemy for you. So based on this ayah, Allah ordered Muslims to consume the pure food. Okay, it also refers to the permissible of using object or anything that require with basic need, which is beverage, medicine, cosmetic, and others. Second, manufacturer must manufacture the best product for the consumer. Islam instructs product manufacturers not only to look at the value of profit only, but also to be serious in complying with the demand of these religions. Food produce must be free from illegal element and must be high quality product. Third is getting right to information about the product, which is halal logo and certification, expired date, labeling, price, and so on. The right to get the true information of fact that to make an easier for consumer to choose the right product. Okay, lastly, the right to good exchange because of the flaw, clear aib, and get compensation when be deceived. In Islam, give protection to consumer which give a right to choose here and give a permission to customer exchange their product if the product damaged or flaw. Next is example goods related the right of halal consumer. First is food. As we know, food is one of the necessities that consumers need and seek, such as rice, cooking oil, sugar, and so on. So the consumer needs to buy the food that have a halal logo certificate by JAKIM. Second is medicine. Before use or taking the medicines, ensure get the advice from doctor or health officer. Furthermore, the consumer also make sure the number and dosage taken are accurate to avoid side effect. So the law that protect consumer, Medicine Act 1956 And second, Pharmacy Registration Act 1951. So the consumer can refer that law to make sure the medicine that they buy is safe to consume. Third is insect poison or chemical. Choose foods, vegetables or fruit that use organic ingredients that have no chemical. Read the instruction on how to use it first before using pesticides or chemical. Okay, lastly is for electronic device. Consumer should select electronic device that have SIRIN approval. SIRIN stand to Standard and Industrial Research Institute of Malaysia. Second is choose electronic device that are easy to operate and save energy. Beside that, consumer should to get a warranty for damage claim. Okay, the law that protect the electronic device, first is Electrical Act 1949 and Standard and Industrial Research Institute of Malaysia 1975.
Second objective is to examine the regulation under offence on the consumer right related halal. Offences. First is failure to comply with trade description certification marking of Halal Order 2011. For example, using the JAKIM Halal logo on import goods that have not been certified halal. For the penalty, if the person is an incorporate body, shall be punished with fine not exceeding 250,000 ringgit, and for every second or subsequent, shall be liable to fine 500,000 ringgit. Next, if the person is not a body corporate, shall be punished with fine not exceeding 100,000 ringgit and with imprisonment for a terms or not more than 3 years or for every second or subsequent offence, and not maximum penalty at 250,000 ringgit or imprisonment of not more than 5 years or both. Second, failure to comply with Medicines Advertisement and Sale Act 1956. For example, advertise of medicines that not approved by the Medicine Advertisements Board. For the penalty, in the case of a first conviction, to a fine not exceeding 3,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for any terms not exceeding 1 year or to both. Next is, in the case of a subsequent conviction, to a fine not exceeding 5,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a terms not exceeding 2 years or to both. Third, the last offence is failure to comply with Abattoir Privatisation Act 1993. For example, the abattoir cause pollution in the surroundings. For penalty, the general penalty is on conviction be liable to fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or to both.
Next, for the third objective, which is to analysis the issue related consumer protection in Malaysia and international. Next, for the first issue of consumer protection in Malaysia is pull 2,576 products using fake halal logo. This issue happened at Malacca. A total of 2,576 products produced by food manufacturing companies were confiscated by the KPDN HEP Malacca after abusing the halal logo of the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, JAKIM. It also involved 3 retail premises, respectively in Taman Merdeka Permai Batu Berendam, Pangkalan Jaya Alur Gajah and Taman Limbungan Jaya. Further examination also found that the halal logo was affixed to the product package that not come from JAKIM or foreign bodies recognized by JAKIM. Besides, action can be taken in accordance with Order 4 (1) of the Trade Description Act for Halal Certification and Marking Order 2011. This is because the misuse of halal logo can bring confuse to Muslim or halal consumer. So, they will be punished according to Trade Description Act 2011 for the halal certification and marking abuse. Next, for the second issue of halal consumer protection that happened in Malaysia is misuse of halal certificate to traders compounded. This issue happened at Kuala Terengganu. 2 users in this district used a compound of RM400 by the KPDN HEP each for using the halal logo without the approval of the Malaysian Islamic Development Department, JAKIM. Next, the operation was carried out when they receiving complaints from the public. The initial investigation of the restaurant and beauty product users pasting the halal logo on their premises never applied for a halal certificate from JAKIM and JHID. Using the halal logo without the approval of halal certification is an offence under the Trade Description Act 2011, and the traders can be punished under Trade Description Act 2011 because the misuse of the halal certificate. Besides, they also can bring confuse to the Muslim consumer or halal consumer in order for them to buy their product. Next, for the third issue, for halal consumer protection that happened in the other country, which is US. US halal food pioneer gets 2 years jail term for export fraud to Malaysia and Indonesia. A businessman who is considered a pioneer in the US halal food industry was sentenced Thursday to 2 years in prison for committing fraud in exporting beef products to Malaysia and Indonesia. US District Judge Linda Reid granted 74-year-old William Osage some leniency, departing from federal guidelines that call for a longer sentence. She also fined him $60,000. Federal prosecutor had sought a lengthy prison term, saying Ossie had betrayed foreign governments and customers who trusted him and his company's product. He was convicted last year of directing employees to falsify packaging labels so they could export beef products that did not meet Malaysian and Indonesian standards for halal. So this issue happened at US, and the businessman was being punished by 2 years in prison, and he also need to pay $16,000 because he do fraud by export beef product that do not meet the Malaysia and Indonesia requirement or standard. This is because it can bring confuse to the Muslim consumer and also give bad image to the other country because of betrayal that he doing by export his product.
As a conclusion, halal and illegal goods market in Malaysia is a sensitive issue for the Muslim community. Islam also emphasizes on the aspect of good health among its discipline. So, a Muslim who always care about the aspect of clean and hygienic will be insecure. To avoid the occurrence of uncertainty, confusion and persecution of halal consumers, Enforcement Malaysia has intensified effort to combat the problem by creating laws to ensure halal consumers feel more secure and trust local products. Malaysian law and Islamic law has been comprehensive provision to ensure that users protected from any fraud. The government is responsible to protect consumer from any form of cheating.
27 tan kurma pelbagai jenama bernilai lebih RM448,000 disita oleh Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Hal Ehwal Pengguna Pulau Pinang dalam operasi bersama Jabatan Hal Ehwal Agama Islam Pulau Pinang pada Selasa. Serbuan dilakukan terhadap sebuah syarikat pengedar dan pengimport kurma di Bandar Perda Bukit Mertajam yang dapati menggunakan perakuan CJ halal tanpa kebenaran.
Menurut pengarahnya, Muhammad Rizwan Abdul Ghaffar berkata, hasil pemeriksaan mendapati syarikat berkenaan sudah 3 tahun beroperasi tanpa menggunakan logo halal yang diperakui JAKIM.
Perakuan halal ini merupakan satu orang kata jaminan lah bagi umat Islam. Ya, dan kita tidak mahu pihak peniaga sewenang-wenangnya menggunakan perakuan halal tanpa mendapat kebenaran daripada pihak berkuasa iaitu pihak Jabatan Agama Islam.
Siasatan juga mendapati kotak kurma yang dijual dan diedarkan oleh syarikat berkenaan mempamerkan logo halal yang menyerupai logo daripada pihak JAKIM, sedangkan tiada sebarang permohonan dibuat. Syarikat berkenaan didapati melakukan kesalahan di bawah Perintah 4-1 Perihal Dagangan, Perakuan dan Penandaan Halal 2011. Sabit kesalahan boleh didenda tidak melebihi RM250,000 dan bagi kesalahan kedua atau berikutnya didenda tidak melebihi RM500,000.